Hey, it's Nikki. We have a podcast on our network called Working Forward. It's all about future of work topics. And there's a special series that we do in the PeopleForward Network community, myself with our Chief Strategy Officer, Jason Cochran, and we break down the inner workings of PeopleForward Network and how we're doing some things to really model the way of what it's like to lead and live out what it means to be a people-forward organization. So I hope that you enjoy the special bonus episode that I recorded with my dear pal, Jason Cochran.
Welcome to Working Forward Conversations, a special live, unfiltered episode hosted inside the PFN community where we explore bold, working forward ideas we adopt and use here at PeopleForward Network. Enjoy. All right, PFN community, we are back with another Working Forward conversation every Wednesday at 2:30. One of my favorite times every week. Nikki, how are you?
I love these chit chats. It always goes so fast. I'm good.
We've got a fun topic this week, and it's really kind of a timely one on this conversation of augmenting, not replacing, how to go about building people-first teams with AI. And Nikki, I know you'll agree with this sentiment. We aren't experts in this, but one of the things that we really believe at PFN is sharing the things that we're learning and we're trying to do and that we experiment with as a team. Yeah. We don't get it right all the time. We stub our toes, but we love to share because we hear from a lot of leaders that it gives them confidence, encouragement, and learning and figuring out how to get started on some of this stuff in their teams. And so this is one of those topics today for us that we're going to share some of the things we're doing, but by no means are we like experts in this to be like, here's the framework for how you go about adopting AI in your organization. We're just going to keep it real and give you very practical examples of how we've been going about doing it and what we've been learning. So wanted to set the stage there. But Nikki, on this topic of augmenting, not replacing, why do you think that that's such an important title for today's episode?
I think it's a really good anchor to help remove the fear, from people feeling like, oh my gosh, all this fancy technology is going to replace me. And just anchoring people in, this is a helper, right? It's here to help you go faster or go deeper or do the nitty gritty work that can just help you not have to do that stuff. And I'm with you, Jason. We're learning every day, just trying things. But I will say every hour of the day, I'm using AI now, just across the board. And I think it's important to help illustrate as leaders and team members, keep teaching each other because it's a constant learning and it's constant changing.
I love that. And I shared a funny example with you and Rob on our team earlier this week that my oldest son is 11 and it was time for the birds and the bees talk. And I leaned into using ChatGPT to help coach me on how to structure and have that conversation. And I was so impressed with it.
I love that.
And the reason I bring that up is, sometimes we think we got to have this master strategy, this master plan. We got to have everything figured out before we start dipping our toe in the water. It's like, no, you don't. You can start using it now, and you can start using it on a personal level. If you want to do it for that type of stuff, say, hey, these are the ingredients I'm looking inside my pantry right now. What's something that I can make with these ingredients?
Yeah.
Use it like that, like Google, like all of us. We probably remember the first time we started using Google for search to find things. Just start hopping in ChatGPT like you would Google and use it for everyday type things. And then once you start to grease it a little bit that way and figure out, this is how I interact with it, this is the best way to structure the questions, it'll start learning more things about you, and then you'll get better quality responses over time. But just want to share that out of the gate that you don't have to have everything figured out at the very beginning. You don't have to have the perfect prompts. You just got to get started.
Totally. I'm going to lean into your making dinner example for a second to apply this concept of intentionality and, input. What is that saying? Like what you put in is equal to what you get out, right? Like, it's like the energy we put into our workouts is directly related to like the outcome of building muscle, right? Something like that. You think about making dinner and you said, I told it what ingredients I have, or maybe the ingredients you're interested in for dinner. And then it gives you ideas from there. You didn't say, hey, what should I have for dinner? You gave it information with, I want to use what I have, maximize this. And I think that's the way to think about it. it's really important that we keep our thoughts, our original thoughts, and we guide our AI buddies to collaborate with us. Because like, let's say that I was just gonna write a new culture guide for PFN, and hey, ChatGPT, can you write me some, tighter examples for how to build our culture stronger? That's it. I mean, we're gonna have stuff over in right field and left field, and people are like, what? The way that I would come at that is I'm gonna say, hey, I want to revisit our core values, our mission, our culture code. Remember, here's a couple of things we've been doing this year so far. Can you help me hone in the focus for where we should go with going deeper for the next quarter? It gives me ideas. I edit it, but I had to do all that legwork to be able to get the output that's truly authentic. I just think it's so important to know that, because there's a lot of people that are just experimenting just like we are, but that's a really crucial piece of this. Don't you think?
It absolutely is. The critical thinking piece is what I think is so important that often we don't talk about. There's another term that I came across these last few weeks around AI that was new to me, but it's an actual construct that's really important at a metacognitive level when thinking about the use of AI. And it's called explainable AI. And it's pretty simple in terms of what it means, but in terms of from a philosophical standpoint of how we all think about it, whether we're using it personally or professionally, the concept of explainable AI is understanding how and why the AI generates the answers that it does. And beyond just the prompt of like, well, it's because I asked for this. It's like, yeah, but why did it say this or give this answer instead of this? Like almost like a decision tree type thing.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of biases that can be in there, because sometimes there can be false information, there can be hallucinations.
Yeah.
To your point, at the end of the day, the decision making of what you do with the information should always still rely with the human. Like you don't just want to like copy and paste and be like, okay, I got this. I'm just sending it in this email, or this is what we're going to use for our marketing copy, or this is the decision that we're going to make as a company. It's like, yes, use it as a guide, use it to help maybe generate initial draft ideas, use it throughout the process and maybe trying to fine tune things. But at the end of the day, you never want it to replace the critical thinking skills that you want people on the team to trust their instincts, trust their experiences, and make that final call on whatever that quote unquote final deliverable, that final wording, that final thing is.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important distinction that you brought up.
Really important. And so we can't overlook, as we get in the trenches and we're regularly using AI and teaching our team and cross-departmentally teaching each other and sharing how we're using this and what works and what doesn't. I think, it's just so important to keep our eye on. We have to keep learning as humans, because our learnings are what's going to inspire us to be able to draft up that content, like the ingredients that are in your kitchen for dinner. And so if we stop learning, then we're never going to have those original thoughts and critical thinking skills, because we don't have that muscle anymore. So I think that's one component. The other component is we don't just take whatever it spits out at face value. We need to review it, make sure it's truly authentic to our personal brand and to our company brand. And those are just some of the, I think, like setting the stage, like the anchor of reframing the fear. This is here to help you go further, faster. The intentionality and making sure that we're consistently pouring into ourselves, still learning and developing, making sure it's on brand. We're editing, right? We're using this as a helper, augment versus replace.
That's right. Still trust your human talent to be making those calls. A few of the ways I thought about that I brainstormed that I've already experienced us using it at PeopleForward Network, Nikki, and I want you to add on to this list. Content creation, so helping with first drafts, but again, it's not the final voice. It helps us with first drafts, sometimes helping us to refine those drafts until we get it finished. Data analysis, so being able to deliver insights pretty quickly, but again, it doesn't make final decisions on things. Sometimes it'll help with administrative tasks, like maybe scheduling. We use a lot of like workflow automation type stuff that's inside the community platform, sometimes to send out group messages. Learning and development. This is an exciting one that we've started to delve more into, is whenever we do our team retreats, we're really trying to lean into using it to help us with our learning and development. brainstorming. So idea generation. So not replacing it or having it have the seat at the strategy table to make the decisions, but helping generate ideas around strategy that makes sense for the business. And then another one is that we've had a lot of fun with that you really led us on in our last retreat was understanding one another's whys and strengths levels and helping coach on that. And that's through the talent optimization lens. What are maybe some others that you listed or that you've thought of different ways that we've been using AI to augment what we do at PFN?
Yeah, I've got a list here. I love all of yours. Totally agree with all of those. One that I think you said, I'm overlapping just a little here, but a lot of us have a hard time getting started on something. So you'd said like lay out the first draft. If you know the goal, you know the initiative, and you can feed it some information to support better understanding this goal that we're working on, but you're like, this is still so overwhelming. Helping us get started. The next is, we do a ton of podcasting at PeopleForward Network, and we use various tools, AI tools, to help with editing, creating marketing kits, maximizing those marketing kits to be able to share with our partners, our clients, we call them partners, ideas for concepts of how to maximize this episode and get all these different components that we call a marketing enablement kit. Event descriptions. In our community, we have lots of events and we have templated forms. They submit the information and then we take that information and it can help us stick with the same system each time and really create an influential invitation for those events. Guides, systems, operations. So working regularly with our head of operations, Chelsea, right now we're working on a internal onboarding overview and all of the components. I was just reminding her today, I was like, just in regular life, marketing wise, it's said that you have to say things 7 times for things to stick. Well, in the world of like a very important culture like we have, I think we even have to do it more. And what are all the different ways to reiterate with this document of this overview? Now it's giving us ideas to find ways to reiterate. It's not like, here's the email again, read it. It's like, ooh, a workbook, ooh, a video. Ooh, we can create a podcast episode. We can have a little fun event, all these different ideas. So like guides and processes, sales, proposals. I mean, Eric, who leads sales for us, I love sales. We are having so much fun with these folders that we've built out in ChatGPT 4.0. So we've got projects and then we've got our templates and background and knowledge, and based on what the deal is, we have to fill out all this information, and then it creates this consistency and very ROI driven, because we want to make sure that all of our deals clearly understand the ROI. We know what to ask in sales. We know what the ROI, and then we can put it in these nice formats that he and I can just easily collaborate on. Those are just a few, but man, it's helping my life so much. Talk about augmenting. I'm getting so much time back. And I had mentioned before, Jason, I'm like, our 4-day work week is right around the corner.
I love that. And, let's tie in that 4-day work week, because this ties into culture, because there are a lot of organizations that are taking a stance on AI that really is against their culture and is actually having the opposite effect, where it's creating a culture of people feeling threatened, people feeling helpless or hopeless in their work. I'm going to give you 2 examples that just recently happened. Shopify CEO and Duolingo's CEO, they both came out and said, we will no longer hire humans for new roles. We have a policy that we must first demonstrate that the job can't be done by AI first before we will consider hiring a human.
That's bold.
That's bold. And I haven't looked at the morale meter, quote unquote, or any type of statistics from folks who work there in terms of how has this affected employee engagement or the employee experience. But I can't imagine that leaves folks who are there working being like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. No.
And so I know we talk about culture a lot. We believe in people forward practices. We exude those. We try to live those as best we can because we believe it's so important, that we don't want to brush over the importance of positioning the way you talk about AI, the way you treat it, the way that you use it in your organization needs to be aligned with your culture and your values. Mm-hmm. And that if it's not, and the reason I shared that is if we were to ask folks on the PFN team, do they feel threatened by the use of AI? I don't think anyone on the team is going to be like, I'm scared that we're using AI. The way we've approached it from a culture perspective is this isn't about displacing your job. This is about trying to get to a 4-day work week. This is about trying to do great work in less time so that you have the life work integration and flexible work that you want. And so to your point, Nikki, when you talked about aspiring to that 4-day work week, I think it's a step that many organizations, even very successful ones on the outside, if you would say Duolingo and Shopify are those successful businesses, most everyone would be like, of course, absolutely. But do I think that they created an absolute faux pas, their CEOs, and how they have approached AI? I do.
Yeah.
Even if your goal is to eventually be able to replace certain roles with AI, how do you go about communicating that? How do you go about upskilling and reskilling your people for other roles that maybe need to continue to be only human driven? There's a way to go about being thoughtful about it. And it felt like that was something really reckless. And so I just wanted to take a moment, and I want your feedback and ideas on this too, that I think sometimes it's easy to skip past the culture conversation of how we think about and approach AI. But it really is like the foundational first things that you have to think about is like, okay, if we're going to start to use this, let's view it through our values. Let's view it through our culture code of who we are. How does it align? How does it maybe not align? And make sure that we're having transparent, open conversation around that so that we don't step on some landmines and inadvertently do some things to our culture that can make it more challenging for people to do their best work or have a great employee experience. What are your thoughts on that around culture and AI?
Well, I just use my handy dandy ChatGPT 4.0 to help a little bit here because I'm like,
Love it.
I'm really curious after you talked about these two CEOs, and I'm like, let's work backwards. How about the other side? Like we were in a session today and we're like, bad leadership teaches us a lot. So let's look at the other side of this. So let me walk through this really quick. Core principles of a people first AI integrative company. Okay. Number one, purpose driven use. AI is used as a tool to accelerate meaningful work, not just efficiency. It helps reduce friction, automate the mundane, and unlock higher value and time for human connection and creativity. Solid. Okay. Number two, empowerment over replacement. AI empowers every team member to punch above their weight and make
I like that.
Whether it's through decision making, because AI is helping them with that, faster execution, new insights they can bring to the team. In the world of people first, team members think of it as a co-pilot and not a threat. Okay. Then we have transparency builds trust. People first companies don't sneak AI in. They communicate clearly about how it's used, why, and what it means for team roles and responsibilities and how they could or may shift. Then AI that reflects culture. So people first companies train, prompt, and deploy AI in ways that reinforce the brand voice. This means you had to do your homework, like the ingredients in the kitchen, right? You have your brand voice, your internal values, your inclusive practices. The goal is to make sure AI doesn't dilute culture, it strengthens it. So to feed it that information to help us strengthen what our foundation, right? And then finally, continuous learning and co-creation. People first cultures invite their teams into conversation. How could AI make your work better? And then they listen. And then this unlocks bottom-up innovation. I love that. Ownership and psychological safety in, something that many people change. So what do you think about those? I was like, we're spot on.
I love that. I love that you hopped on and you did that while we were talking about, because that seems like it's the complete antithesis to the approach these two CEOs took at Duolingo and Shopify. The second to last one that you mentioned there, I want to loop in another conversation we had on Working Forward with Enrique Rubio and Matt Burns a few months ago. The second to last one that you mentioned was around like training the agents on your culture, on your values, so it understands those norms. This blew my mind. Enrique and Matt were talking about how we are quickly moving into a future where we've always thought of HR being kind of like the gatekeepers of culture, or like the stewards of culture. Maybe that's a better term for it. And that it's been just through the lens of human beings. How do we equip humans to understand the values here, to contribute toward it, and things like that? But that now your CIOs Your chief technology officers, they're getting involved too, because you have to program agents to also understand the values and the norms so that the way that it responds, the way that it conducts itself, the way it engages with other members of the team that are human, that it does that on a way that's consistent with the values and culture of the organization. And so when you brought that up, it just reminded me that like, that's kind of the future that we're moving into, is that it's even important in terms of how we are training and developing and helping the AI learn, almost like we would with kids, that the information in that we put, the more that we can help it understand our culture and our values, the more reflective of the type of work, the quality of the output and responses that we get is going to be more aligned with who we are and who we're aspiring to be as an organization. And so there's that side of it too when it comes to culture.
Love this. There was a couple of examples in here that I saw. So real world examples of people first companies using AI well. So instead of hiring more admins to support all leaders and teams, a people first company would equip team members with AI tools and agents to help manage their workflows and teach how to, get the support tasks off their plate. I love that, because it's like then everyone in an organization could have an assistant, right? This is really cool. That's neat. Like somebody who's like, 20 years ago, I never would have thought my role would like allow for an assistant. We all get them. We all get this now. This is so cool. They use AI to synthesize employee feedback across surveys, calls, and community threads, all the different platforms that they use to get data synced faster, to get responses and take action faster. So I used to work in the employee engagement survey space. One of the greatest challenges we worked against was people are like, we spent 3 months collecting data, and then it was 9 months before we rolled out any of the changes. Problems weren't even the problems anymore, right? And so it helps us to quickly get this information from people real time to be able to take action and find trends in that data. There's many of these. So anybody that's listening, go in and kind of play around to learn more about how people first or people forward companies are doing this, but pretty incredible. I'm already picking up some new ideas as well.
And, it's not all too different. Remote work was one of those big things that happened in the last few years, particularly around COVID, where it was like, here's the new thing that we're talking about. But the conversation always boiled down to the organizations that get it, that understand people, they'll figure it out. They'll figure out how to support their people. And for this new change, we're going to adapt to it. We're going to see this challenge as an opportunity, and we're going to make this something that can improve. It's the same thing with AI. If you're looking at AI to replace people, you've already drawn the line in the sand, and you've communicated very clearly to people where your values are, that it's 100% profit, that people are a cog in the machine, just like the AI that's replaceable. And there will be consequences for that.
Yeah.
So I hope for your sake, if you're an organization that's like, we are looking to displace people on our team, if that's the approach that you're going to take, like Shopify, then I hope that AI is going to get the job done for you, because it's probably going to become more challenging for you to get people to want to join your organization. It's going to tarnish your brand. Duolingo was the other one. In Duolingo, they were a darling brand in the eyes of a lot of Gen Zs in particular. It was seen as an ideal place to work. And I'll be curious, now that these statements came out, what will those ratings look like moving forward?
Yeah.
So you have to choose not only your words carefully, but you have to really think about the philosophy, the approach, think about it through the culture lens before you just start saying, nope, this is the direction we're going to go. This is how it's going to be. And we're going to not hire anyone else unless we can't prove that the AI can't do it to begin with. That communicates a lot and really impacts culture. So we got to be wise about that.
One thing I do want to mention, though, just really quick, Jason, is from a strategic vision of a company and maximizing resources, there are some use cases or examples for jobs that are being eliminated so that people can go into more meaningful work, right? Like data entry clerks, basic customer service reps, low-level content writers, bookkeeping basics, basic graphic design. Have you seen what Canva does? transcription services. There are definitely things that we do need to be smart about looking at. Okay, how do we use technology here? However, I think then it's this conversation around how are you positioning this to help people understand the change and that you really thought this through and why that's happening. And then how are you helping the people that were data entry or bookkeeping basics or transcription services? How are you helping them on their work journey? Right. I think that's just an important thing to note. Any thoughts?
It is. No, I'm glad that you brought that up. There's no doubt that there's going to be jobs that are eliminated. But to your point, it's one thing to do that, but it's like, how do you respond to that? Are you upskilling? Are you reskilling? Do you have a plan for what the jobs in the future are? We hear the stats a lot of times that it's thrown out there. I forget how many, like millions of jobs it's anticipated that AI will displace in the next 3 years. But then it's anticipated in that same study, I can't remember which one it was, that there's more jobs that are going to be created. I think though that's the way that you got to communicate is, okay, if these are going away, but here's the plan.
Yeah.
Here's where we're going. Let's provide a path. Let's talk about what's of interest to you. And I think sometimes that's the piece that gets lost, and that's what gives people a lot of fear and anxiety, and rightfully so, because there are organizations. Microsoft, perfect example this week. Microsoft just said we're getting rid of 3% of our workforce, and it's not coming back, and it's because of AI. And I haven't seen any of the reports like the way that it was communicated to people. I just saw that was a report that came out this week. But it's just a good reminder that these conversations are really important. And yes, that there are going to be certain roles or certain types of like job functions, to your point, Nikki, that are going to go away. But how are we preparing and guiding into the future for understanding what are those new roles that's going to be created? And how do we start helping people move that direction for that type of work? And I hope that we have more leaders that are vocal about that. Because I think that's why right now that people are kind of down in the dumps in terms of the pessimism of the future, is a lot of it has to do with not having hope around still having work, still having the ability to make money and do those things. And so having a thoughtful way that you go about laying out that plan of like, yes, this might be something that's eventually going away, but here's what we're going to be moving toward. I think that's one of the critical jobs of a leader, is always pointing toward the vision of like, we are going someplace better. I mean, still some hope here that it's not just doom and gloom. This is going away. And it's like, sorry about you.
Right.
I don't know what we're going to do for you.
Yes. Intentional with care and people first or people forward.
That's right. And I love the example that you gave for us. The anchor for us is like 4-day work week, y'all.
Yeah.
This is why we're experimenting with it. This is why we're all learning how to do it, is because we know that it really is a big driving factor.
Yeah.
It can enable us to get to that 4-day work week that we know literally everyone on the team is like, yes, let's figure out how to get there. What else is on your mind on this topic that you want to cover, Nikki, around augment, not replace? How are we leaning into building kind of like a people first AI team at PFN?
Well, you know what? I think we cover it. We had a really good overview today. And I think this could be a regular conversation to share what we're doing. We've had conversations about how we're doing team development, individual development, and team development, company development with strengths. So there's so many different topics that I think we could go granular on, but for keeping things on time today, I feel like we covered a lot. And maybe, hey, listeners, send us your topics. We'd love to our community to go deeper. We'd also love to cover these topics about just what we're trying at PFN and engage those questions or topics that you have here on these weekly chats. So
I love it. Thanks for being with us, Working Forward listeners and PFN community. And we'll be back again next week with another episode. See you then. Thanks for being part of this special Working Forward conversation. Want to join us live next time? Head over to bit.ly/PFN community to join our PFN community and become part of the conversation that's driving what's next in work and leadership. See you there.